Our next question comes from Johnson City, Tennessee, Nolan Gray. I've been a lifelong resident of Johnson City, Tennessee. I was born in 85, so I was a bit too young to witness a lot of the great Smoky Mountain Wrestling events. How did Johnson City, Tennessee rank as a market for Smoky Mountain Wrestling? Any good talent from East Tennessee? I would love to hear any stories you have about Johnson City. My father once told me he witnessed Ric Flair buy the bar out at Cheers in Johnson City, paying for everyone in the bar's drinks after a night of wrestling at the rec center.
Yeah, Cheers. Cheers was a big place in Johnson City back then. Johnson City has changed, by the way. I was through there not long ago, and my God, it's a huge city now compared to what it used to be. But Freedom Hall, the first time, obviously Johnson City was part of the Tri-Cities territory. Kingsport, Johnson City, and Bristol. That's the Tri-Cities in Tennessee. They each had a television station. In Johnson City, it was WJHL Channel 11. In Kingsport, it was the ABC affiliate, I believe. And, of course, in Bristol, it was WCYB Channel 5, where Smoky Mountain Wrestling emanated from all those many years. And, of course, the Tri-Cities was the home of the king of Kingsport, the number one hillbilly, the man himself, Ron Wright. So, and we got to have Bo James on the show, and we're going to, I promise. But he'll tell us some stories about the Tri-Cities. But Johnson City in particular, the first time I got a chance to work there was when we went to work for Crockett. And Johnson City at the time was, even though Continental Wrestling was still running, it wasn't really a promotional war because the Continental promotion ran Kingsport at the Civic Auditorium, I believe, at the time. And every once in a while, Crockett would go into Johnson City because Jim Crockett Sr. was from the Tri-Cities, from Bristol. And when he moved to Charlotte in the mid-30s, he opened up his wrestling promotion. But his brother, Walter Crockett, was a head honcho and program director and bigwig TV executive up there in the Tri-Cities. And at one point, and Bo can give us more details on this, but Crockett got upset because the East Tennessee crew ran Bluefield, West Virginia, which he considered his town. So he got his brother to, or at least I guess maybe it was Crockett Sr. By that time, it might have been Crockett Jr. So his uncle to put them on TV in the Tri-Cities. And they would run intermittent shows in Johnson City. I remember a Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair match in January of '86 at Freedom Hall set the all-time people record for any event in the building in Freedom Hall. It sold out at like 62 or 6,300 people. And then the first time I got to work there was the Great American Bash '86. It was Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, and Baby Doll against me and the Midnight Express at a cage on top in the main event of the Bash that year or that particular night. And the house in Johnson City, Tennessee in 1986 was over $100,000. 6,300 people sold out, and they supposedly turned another 2,000 away. We were in the building by then, so I didn't see it, but that's the reports that we got. And that's really one of the reasons why when I started thinking about Smoky Mountain Wrestling and started thinking about the Knoxville territory, I knew that many wrestling fans existed in a small town like Johnson City. I mean, that gate today would be a $300,000 gate. We're talking Madison Square Garden level in today's money, as the kids say. So Sandy Scott knew the building manager and the staff there from his days working for Crockett. So when we opened up Smoky Mountain, Knoxville was obviously the number one market, but Johnson City was number two. And the only houses we would usually do that would beat whatever Freedom Hall did was once a year in the Bluegrass Brawl in Pikeville would beat most of the year's houses in Johnson City. But Johnson City was usually number two. That's why it was always figured into Thanksgiving Thunder and Christmas Chaos. It was a monthly town for us. Great facility, great people to work with. We got it at the time for a song. I mean, it was a 6,000 seat building. They would put the curtain down the middle. And they gave us a sweetheart rent deal because we were going 12 times a year and because they liked wrestling and they liked Sandy Scott. So, yeah, we had some great matches in Johnson City. Brought The Undertaker there, brought a lot of the top stars that we brought into Smoky Mountain at the time. They would always make a stop in Johnson City. And I would say overall it was the nicest, easiest, cleanest, just trouble-free place that we ran in the course of our exploits in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And I'm looking forward, actually, I'm going back there later on this year. Be the first time I've been back there in 20 years for big time wrestling on Thanksgiving weekend. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the building might have changed. But those little East Tennessee towns, they're growing up. I went through Morristown. I couldn't believe it. You couldn't get anything to eat past Hardee's at 10 o'clock at night in Morristown. And now they've got hotels and Chili's and stoplights and everything. It's amazing.
Amazing.
I'm not ribbing you. Literally, the front page headline in the local paper, the Morristown Citizen Tribune, when I lived there, the front page headline with a photo was actually, I still have the paper, new stoplight installed at mall.